40.
We need just 12 ministries. And I've done me, I've merged them in order, and I said, we need 12 ministries. And this should be manned by 24 ministers, sector ministers. That is each ministry and the deputy.
Meanwhile, General Secretary of the Ghana Mines Workers Union, Abdul Mumin Backah, will join us live for the union's expectation on the 2023 budget. Also, telecommunications firms commence the blocking of all unregistered SIM cards in phases. Plus, Bank of Ghana withdraws license of Credit Reference Bureau, Hudson Price, as it directs all financial institutions to stop submitting information on clients' credit history to the firm. We've got details of these and many others lined up for you. Please stay on. Grateful you could stay on, and those were your commodities updates. Straight to our very first story. The Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, is calling for the scaling down of the number of ministers from 84 to 40. According to its Director of Research, Dr. John Kwache, the current number of ministers have not had any positive impact on governance, but rather burdened the taxpayer. He therefore wants the 2023 budget to merge some of the ministries to ease the burden on capital expenditure. Dr. John Kwache spoke at a pre-budget media engagement in Accra.
We need just 12 ministries. And I've done me, I've merged them in order, and I said, we need 12 ministries. And this should be manned by 24 ministers, sector ministers. That is each ministry and the deputy. Okay? And then you add 16 regional ministers, and I'm prepared to give them 40 sector ministers and regional ministers in total. That's what we need. Look, these things I'm talking about, I'm not saying that the budget, I expect the budget to announce them. That's all, but I'm saying that, you know, the budget is about, it talks about everything in this economy, all policies, you know, the budget is somehow responsible. So I'm saying that these are things that need to be taken into consideration, whether in this budget or subsequent ones. Well, that's another issue. But what I'm saying is that we need just 14 minutes and not 8. This will require the merger of ministries. Typically, we should not have separate ministries for roads and highways, transport, and railway development. What is that?
Let's stay a while longer on the 2023 budget. And the Ghana Mine Workers Union says the government must increase its stake in the mining companies and create an enabling environment for the active participation of indigenous companies. The union says the industry is dominated by foreigners with over 99% ownership. General Secretary of the union, Abdul Mumin Backah, joins us via Zoom for more, as well as the union's expectations ahead of the 2023 budget presentation. Grateful you could join us, Mr. Backah. Now, first off, what is the current state of foreign dominance in the industry? Is it anything better?
And thanks for the opportunity. Let me say good evening to all our listeners and our viewers across the country and across the globe. Yes, the situation unfortunately hasn't changed since pre-independence. It's been dominated largely by, by foreigners. And so the control of the mining sector and by extension the entire extractive sector by foreigners has direct implications on our economy. if you look at the key productive sectors of our economy, including our telecommunication industry, even our financial industry, our financial sector, they are all, dominated by foreign interests. And these have direct implications on how we're able to raise the needed revenue and how we're able to expend that revenue in the interest of the Ghanaian people. I must also say that some of the physical arrangements that we have in place for these multinational businesses even go to exacerbate our current position as a country in terms of the ailing state of our economy. I mean, if, for example, in the mining industry, a mining company is at liberty, to retain 80% of its receipts outside of the shores of this country and can only spend 20% or retain 20% in country. And so if you look at the imbalance, it is not surprising that we have a lot of pressure on the Ghanaian cedi, largely because of a demand and supply issue of whether or not you have adequate or the right amounts of forex in our economy. And so clearly, if we have a control by, indigenous Ghanaians controlling the industry and by extension the extractive sector, whatever we generate by way of revenue will stay right here in Ghana. And so we'll use that to show our position in terms of our foreign reserves, and by extension, how we're able to use that to the benefit of the Ghanaian people. So unfortunately, it doesn't appear the gory narrative around the mining sector, and for that matter, the extractive sector is going to go away anytime soon. It is still largely dominated by, foreign owners. And it is high time that we introduce the needed policies, the right policies to ensure that at least we gradually, shift this narrative towards having some domination of, indigenous interest in the extractive sector.
It's rather unfortunate that issues of foreigners still persist within the sector. Now, it brings to the fore the issue about contract mining. Are these multinationals heeded to your plea? Have they?
Well, on the contrary, they have gone on a rather very regressive, direction as far as contract mining is concerned. The whole crux about contract mining is largely to do with the indecent and the unsustainable jobs that contract mining comes with. And so what we're saying is that the more you have indecent and unsustainable jobs in the mining sector, it has direct implications on payee. We're talking about employee income tax. If you have a more stable job, you have a relatively, better income, and for that matter, you are able to contribute more directly to payee. Unfortunately, as the jobs continue to get indecent because of the increasing spate of non-standard forms of employment, occasioned largely by contract mining and all the other, arrangements that we have, unfortunately, in the industry, we're going to have situations where revenue continues to decline because workers who hitherto earn some decent salaries are now earning relatively less favorable, incomes or salaries, and for that matter, conditions of service, and their implications on payee. Again, if you look at even pensions, in other economies, you're able to build some very reasonable buffers in terms of pensions. Our pension fund continues to decline, and this is because you have growing indecent and unsustainable jobs in our economy, and the mining sector is no exception. And so the more we continue to witness a decline in the decent and sustainable nature of jobs that we see in the mining sector and by extension the Ghanaian economy, the more we will continue to witness a decline in terms of how much we're able to raise by way of revenue to support the Ghanaian economy and to support all the social infrastructure and services that the Ghanaian people desire or want to see. And so clearly, These are ills in the industry that we need to stamp out once and for all. And to do that, government must lead the way. Government needs to be a lot more forceful by ensuring that we review the Labor Act as quickly as possible so that we can nip this canker in the bud. Beyond that, government must also be deliberate about introducing more progressive policies that ensure the sustainability of jobs, the decency of jobs, so that by extension, incomes also can be very decent, for working people of this country.
All right, so stay on the recommendations you're talking about, and let's dovetail that into the 2023 budget and your expectations, Abdul.
Well, as a matter of fact, the mining sector is a very important sector to the economy of this country. As it stands now, we are all aware of the dire situation that we find ourselves. The economy of Ghana is unfortunately on a downward, decline. And it's important that we find measures to resuscitate it and reposition it on the path of growth to the benefit of all of us. And to do that, I believe that the extractive sector, like all the other key productive sectors of this economy, ought to contribute a little more. They need to demonstrate a lot of empathy and a lot of compassion to the Ghanaian people and by extension to the Ghanaian economy. And so as a union, we believe that, an economic recovery, levy or a tax of a form to support the current ailing position of the Ghanaian economy wouldn't be a bad option at all. And it's important that captains of these mining companies are also, very patriotic and Ghanaian-centered, because at the end of the day, the resources belong to the people of Ghana. The revenue that we're generating, obviously, should belong to the people of Ghana, unfortunately, because of FDI. But we find ourselves in very critical times where we need to ask these mining companies and all other companies in the extractive sector and all other key productive sectors like the telecoms. They need to contribute more to the recovery process. And so that is one area that I look forward to. Beyond that, we all know that our public service colleagues and Ghanaian workers in general, because of the skyrocketing nature of the current inflation and the inflationary pressures in the economy, salaries, unfortunately, of Ghanaian workers can no longer take them home. What we're saying is that we must see government demonstrate something a little more than they have always done to ensure that at least, if for nothing at all, we're able to cushion workers over and above inflation, so that at least every Ghanaian worker should be able to go to the market and to be able to make ends meet. And so we also expect to see that youth unemployment, unfortunately, continues to be a major worry for everyone in this country. Our expectation is that the focus on creating employment, particularly for the young people, is an area that we will want to see, a bit more forthrightness in the budget. More particularly, if you come to the mining sector, the small-scale sector presents a huge opportunity. Government of Ghana's community mining program equally presents some good opportunity. And so we believe that optimizing the potential of small-scale mining as well as the community mining program will, to a very large extent, create decent and sustainable jobs for the growing young men and women in our country, and also ensure that there is contribution of revenue, to the Ghanaian economy. One other key thing that I believe, or the union believes, we want to see manifest in the budget is ensure that there's some radical shift from the current arrangement where you have 80% of mining receipts, retained in the home countries of these mining companies, and then 20%, unfortunately, is retained in Ghana. We want to see a shift in that direction. Our expectation is that at minimum a 50-50 to start with is the way to go, so that at least we can have a lot more forex in our country, and at least to try and bring down the pressures on the cedi, because the more the cedi continues to depreciate, the more we will see inflation also hit the roof, and the implications on workers' disposable income. And so clearly, our expectation also is that there should be a reversal in terms of the 80-20 to a possible 50-50, if not a 20-80, so that at least we can see a lot more support based on the availability of forex in our economy. And so these are, some of the expectations of the Ghana Mine Workers Union. I touched on the issue of the increasing spate of non-standard forms of employment and the implications on income tax. What we are saying is that government must take more noticeable, robust steps to ensure that as much as possible, workers have decent, sustainable jobs, and that they can contribute more positively, to the revenue situation of this country, and by extension, to the economy of this country. So these are our expectations as a union, and we look forward to seeing these things manifest in government's own budget.
Will it come to you as a surprise if you should see introduction of taxes, especially in the extractive sector? Because we do understand that the extractive sector, generates a larger chunk of, revenue, and most of the times these are, left unaccounted for, so it leaves the shores of Ghana. Would you be surprised if you should see 2023 budget showing or indicating some tax around the extractive industry, specifically mining?
As a matter of fact, I shouldn't be surprised at all. Like I said, we need to be a bit more patriotic at this point. The extractive sector, particularly the mining sector, is a major contributor to the economy of this country. But we have gotten to a stage where we need them, to show a lot more faith. I mean, given how far or how the gold price has fared over the period in the last 2 to 3 years, it's been on an upward spiral. And so we expect that this is a time for mining companies to also come to the party. We're not saying they should, whatever introductions there are, whether a levy or a tax, it should be in perpetuity. All we're saying is that we're looking at how we can get the economy back on its feet. And to do that, the expectation is that we must all be seen to be supporting, the growth of the economy. And that is why we need a short to medium term plan that would enable, these mining companies contribute a bit more, to the recovery of the economy. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if I see levies or taxes in one form or the other targeting the extractive sector. But it shouldn't just be the extractive sector alone. There are, as I indicated earlier, other productive sectors of our economy. The telecommunications sector is one major area that we need to be able to touch. At the end of the day, we all know that they rake in lots and lots of revenue. And so there's a need to, tell them, appeal to them, get them to come to the party, let them at least pitch in something at this very moment, so that when we have fully recovered from the ailing state of our economy now, I'm pretty sure that we can always go back to the status quo and operate business as usual.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Abdul Mohamed Backah. He is the General Secretary of the Ghana Mine Workers Union, sharing his perspective with us ahead of the 2023 budget. Let's move on to one of our headline stories. And telecommunications companies in the country have begun blocking SIM cards of mobile subscribers yet to register their SIM cards. The exercise is in compliance with a recent directive from the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization. Now, the telcos are Airtel, Tigo, MTN, and Vodafone. The following report has more.
From the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, recall that on November 11, 2022, the ministry announced some measures to be implemented by operators. Since the 20th of November 2022, members of the chamber have been blocking data services for all subscribers who have only completed Stage 1, which is the linkage to Ghana card, but not Stage 2, which is the biometric capture of the SIM registration process as directed by the ministry. The Telco's chamber said it is encouraging all subscribers who have acquired Ghana cards but are yet to complete Stage 2 to do so before November 30th, 2022. According to the chamber, the telcos are obliged by the directive to completely deactivate all subscriber SIMs which have not completed the biometric capture registration step by the said date. The statement, however, pointed out that customers of the networks are not barred from using voice, data, USSD, mobile money services, and access to emergency services, among others.
Hello, you're still watching Business Life with me, Pious Kojo Backah. Moving on to some other stories, the Bank of Ghana has withdrawn the license of Credit Reference Bureau Hudson Price Data Solution. The regulator in a letter has directed banks and other financial institutions to stop sending data on their clients' credit history to the firm. But what has necessitated this move by the Bank of Ghana? My colleague George Yafe has more.
The Bank of Ghana, in the letter that was asking these institutions to stop sending data to Hudson Price, noted that the action was influenced by persistent non-compliance of the Credit Reference Bureau Act. The central bank, in the letter seen by Joy Business, directed Hudson Price to immediately cease operations, that is on November 21, 2022. That was yesterday. The central bank in the letter was asking all those that had contracts and subscribed to Hudson Price to move to another credit reference bureau in the country no later than December 10, 2022. It is not clear for now the specific breach in the Credit Reference Bureau Act that forced the Bank of Ghana to take this action against Hudson Price. But it's also said the central bank wanted to take measures to protect the financial space. The action by the central bank means that we now have only 2 credit reference bureaus in the country, that is XDS Data and Dun & Bradstreet. Some of these institutions had in the past complained about how they had struggled in getting the commercial banks to comply with the Credit Reference Bureau when it comes to submitting of data covering their clients, in terms of those that are in good financial standing.
A while longer with the Bank of Ghana and the withdrawal of foreign exchange for the import of non-essential commodities, including rice, could constrain foreign exchange liquidity, particularly dollars, and worsen its demand-supply. That's the assertion by Data Bank Research and many other research institutions. There's more in this report.
The Bank of Ghana announced the withdrawal of foreign exchange support for the import of what the government classifies as non-essential commodities. They included rice, poultry, cooking oil, among others, though analysts welcome the initiative as the government strives to preserve its dollar reserves. They believe the move could constrain foreign exchange liquidity. Against this backdrop, they anticipate the depreciation of the local unit to intensify in the retail market while seeing gentle movement in the interbank market this week. The cedi closed weaker last week, depreciating by 1.69% to the dollar. It also lost 3.54 and 4.01% to the pound and the euro, respectively.
And that's all in this package by way of Business Life here on the Joy News channel. Grateful serving you. I am Pious Kojo Backah. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Pleasure serving you.